Welcome to the second day of the International Convention of the Theosophical Society. I'm Barbara Hebert, President of the Theosophical Society in America. It is a joy and a pleasure for all of us to come together for this wonderful day of learning and inspiration. But before we go any further, let us begin our day with the great invocation, the Universal Prayer, written by Annie Besant. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. Thank you. May the Holy Ones be with us as we come together in their name. Now, it is time to hear from our first speaker, Elena Dovalsantos. It is a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Elena Dovalsantos. Elena is a third-generation theosophist, and she hails from the Philippines. However, she is currently a resident and volunteer at the Crotona Institute of Theosophy in Ojai, California. A former research scientist, Elena holds both an MBA and a PhD. She is an international speaker and frequently is asked to present her perspectives on the secret doctrine. Her deep spiritual wisdom, supported by her intellectual understanding, provide valuable insights for all of us. On a personal note, it is rare to find someone like Elena who has so beautifully merged both the mind and heart aspects of the theosophical teachings. Her topic today is mastering the cyclic nature of existence. Please join me in welcoming our sister, Dr. Elena Dovalsantos.
Hello, everyone. The theme of this convention, focusing on cycles, is most relevant in this world today. We are in the midst of a pandemic that has affected just about every country on this planet, whether it is health-wise, socially, or economically. About a year since COVID-19 was first identified, the pandemic is still raging in most of the world. It is in periods of difficulty or catastrophic, life-changing events such as this, when many start to ask the most basic questions about life, seeking a way to understand it in order to better deal with it. Many are asking questions like, why is this happening? Did we do anything to deserve this? What is the pandemic telling us? Are there lessons that we are being made to learn? And how do we navigate through a great crisis as this and come out the better for it? Theosophy provides answers to these most basic questions of life. Theosophy, as you all know, is the accumulated wisdom of the ages, known since antiquity, and brought to the Western world by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in 1875. She's more fondly known as HPB, and that is how I will refer to her in the rest of this talk. Well, theosophy draws the common thread between the great religions of the world, philosophy and science, in order to provide an all-encompassing view of life. First and foremost, theosophy provides a view of the universe that reveals the interconnectedness of everything. As symbolized in the image, every drop reflects the world. Every drop shares the same essence. The idea that all is one and that there is something that connects us all is a view that is now gaining more and more acceptance even in many fields of science. We are all part of one web of life, so that what affects one part of the globe will eventually affect everything else. Just as a disturbance on the web will create vibrations that will affect the whole web. We are seeing this clearly today with the current pandemic that has changed life as we knew it. In the Mahatma letters to AP Senate, it is written, nature has linked all parts of her empire together by subtle threads of magnetic sympathy, that there is a mutual correlation even between a star and a man. The same sentiment is echoed in the poem The Mistress of Vision by Francis Thompson, who wrote, all things by immortal power, near or far, hiddenly to each other linked are, that thou canst not stir a flower without the troubling of a star. Besides the concept of our interconnectedness or oneness, another fundamental teaching offered by theosophy is the purpose for existence. The realization of our true nature, which is divine and one with all, and consequently, the perfection of all the powers latent within us, is the reason for this journey that we are on. The way to achieve this purpose is through cycles that provide endless opportunities for growth and renewal. So in a cycle, every period of activity is followed by a period of rest, followed by another period of activity, and so on. We see this in our days and nights. We wake up each morning renewed, ready to start afresh to continue where we left off the day before. Periodicity is a fundamental law of the universe that is observable at all levels in all of nature. We thus have not only our days and nights, but also birth and death. We have the ebb and flow of tides, changing seasons, biorhythms, blood circulation, water evaporating and condensing to return as rain or snow. We know about the rise and fall of civilizations, and even the rotation or revolution of planets and stars. Cycles are everywhere. So cyclic renewal is seen at all levels, great and small. Cycles are so common, so much a part of ourselves and of the universe, that they must have a purpose. For example, fallen leaves decompose and return to the soil to feed new growth. In the same way, a supernova explosion, which is the death of a massive star, provides a raw material for future stars and planets. Cycles bring endless new beginnings. Isn't it a wonder that cycles are everywhere, but we take them for granted? We usually do not even stop to think about why they happen at all. HPB wrote, "There is a purpose in every important act of nature, whose acts are all cyclic and periodical." Unlike scientific theories that propose randomness in evolution, Theosophy teaches the progressive development of everything, worlds as well as atoms. And this stupendous development has neither conceivable beginning nor imaginable end. Reincarnation is an example of a cycle of renewal. It is a doctrine long accepted in many of the great religions. It was even believed in by the early Christian theologians until the Second Council of Constantinople banned these teachings, though clues to it remain in some biblical accounts. In the concept of reincarnation, every return from life to life is a chance to gather experiences for growth until we are able to transcend human limitations and achieve enlightenment, which is the knowledge of our own true being. The resulting development that is achieved from life to life is thus not a closed circle, but a spiral, expanding and advancing as evolution proceeds. The whole order of nature evinces a progressive march towards a higher life. It is a continuous unfolding towards greater and greater expressions of our true nature. The progressive spiral development is seen even in a flower. You might notice that the rose petals also form a spiral. In everyday terms, we might say that someone who has matured and achieved his or her full potential has bloomed. And just like a rose that starts off as a bud without much of a scent, when it is fully opened, its fragrance can spread throughout a room. In the Dhammapada, the teachings of the Buddha, a sage is likened to a flower whose influence can spread far and wide in all directions. We know that even the sages of old are still being quoted today. Their teachings are still being studied. So we might say that the influence of a sage even transcends time. In India, the never-ending cycles of destruction and creation are represented by Nataraja, the Lord of the Dance, or dancing Shiva. The figure has very deep and varied meanings. We don't need to go into all of them, but perhaps I can just point to a few. In his right hand is the drum that beats the rhythm of creation and time. In his left hand is Agni, the fire of destruction. In his lower right hand is the gesture that says, "Be not afraid. Follow the path of righteousness and all will be well." His front left hand points to his raised left foot, signifying the possibility of emancipation as his right foot steps on the demon of ignorance. It is ignorance that keeps us trapped in the world or cycles of illusion. Shiva dances continually to keep the cycles of destruction and creation going on. After all, there must be endings in order to have new beginnings. The image thus hints that over time, after many cosmic cycles and lives lived in righteousness, it will be possible for us to stamp out ignorance and win our liberation from the never-ending cycles. The growth necessary for us to achieve our purpose is spurred by karma. Karma is the law of action and reaction, cause and effect. Once again, with karma, we see a demonstration of a just, impersonal, and unfailing cyclic law. Whatever we do comes back to us in the same degree as the intent and energy that we put into the action. Karma gives back to everyone the actual consequences of their own actions, without any regard to their moral character. Each of us will be made to atone for all sufferings that we cause, or reap in joy and gladness the fruits of all happiness and harmony that we help to produce. Karma is a great teacher. No one can avoid karma, so its lessons cannot be ignored. Karma never affects an individual alone. Just as a disturbance in water creates ripples that can spread throughout the whole pool. In the words of HBB, the waves oscillate backwards and forwards till at last, owing to the operation of what physicists call the law of the dissipation of energy, they are brought to rest and the water returns to a condition of calm tranquility. The image projected here is another testament to our being part of one web of life. How whatever we do can affect every other. Karma is that law of readjustment, which tends ever to restore harmony and preserve equilibrium, in virtue of which the universe exists. What does this mean for us? For as long as our actions cause a disharmony or imbalance in the equilibrium of this life that we share, we will need to be subjected to the karmic repercussions of our actions until balance is regained. In the same way, a beneficent action or influence will also spread out through a whole pool, or in our case, throughout our whole world, and bring back favorable results to the originator. We just never know how far our actions can go, or how far our thoughts can travel. Let's think for a moment about what is happening in the world today with COVID. If everything happens for a reason, then the staggering global impact of the pandemic can in no way just be an accident. We know that everything that we do is recorded somewhere. In theosophy, there's a concept of the Akashic records. Well, HBB wrote that all the vile emanations of our planet are stored in the astral light. The astral light is that invisible region surrounding our globe, equivalent to our etheric double. It is a lower region of the Akasha, where the coarsest vibrations we have generated are collected. In time, the astral light reflects back to Earth what it has received. So HBB said that epidemics are but the effects of the influence of the astral light. With so many epidemics that have come and gone over the years, and now in the midst of a pandemic, a global one might surmise that a great accumulation of human iniquities that we have generated and stored in the astral light has now returned as global karma. Divisiveness, wars, greed, cruelty to our fellow humans and to animals, destruction of our environment. All of these and more have so marked human activity. We can see that even in the response to COVID-19, there is a general tendency to say, my interests, my enjoyment, my rights, my welfare, my needs are more important than yours. Me first. They say we attract to ourselves what we always think of. Sometimes they say we become what we always think of. Could it be then that our tendencies towards separateness have now attracted to us the mandatory social distancing that we are learning is not much fun? Cycles of renewal, however, are not just for karmic lessons. Nature is wise in her ways, always seeking to maintain balance. For example, have you noticed that while we are social distancing, there has been a boom in online theosophical programs? These are bringing us theosophists closer together, are they not? It is enabling many of us to study theosophy on a regular basis with friends from across the globe. It is facilitating the spreading of these important teachings. Is this the new normal? Well, we don't know, but it's interesting to think about. In Collected Writings, HPB wrote, "The one terrible and only cause of disturbance of harmony is selfishness in one form or another." We have an inborn habit of always placing ourselves at the center of the universe. In most of what we do, think, or feel, the irrepressible I is sure to be the central figure. Well, this separativeness is the principal cause of trouble in the world. The biggest illusion is that we only see each other as separate individuals. It's not easily apparent that in essence we are all the same, that the life and spirit inside of us is the same as that in every other. It's hard to see that, isn't it? This is because to the physical eye, we all look separate. We all look different. But hasn't it been said that what is essential is invisible to the eye? Therefore, if we can perceive beyond the physical, we may be able to sense the subtle threads of magnetic sympathy that connects us all as described in the Mahatma letters. We do know that this invisible connection exists. We feel it with the ones we love. If we can all gradually widen the circle of those whom we love and care for, then maybe empathy will become more natural and we can have a better world. As shown in the image, karma drags us back down again and again around the wheel of existence until we can work out the consequences of our past actions and eventually attain enlightenment. According to Buddhist philosophy, what drives this wheel are three poisons. The first is ignorance, symbolized by the pig, who does not mind living in dirty surroundings and does not discriminate much about what it eats. The poison of ignorance really means being oblivious to the real nature of things. Ignorance of what is permanent and unchanging. Ignorance of the real. This keeps us thirsting for material existence. We cling to this material world. In fact, we're even afraid to die, no matter how much we're suffering. Not knowing that the real life is there after death. Everything in this world is impermanent, transitory, fleeting. The second poison is attachment. Attachment to objects of our desires or objects of the senses, symbolized by a bird that mates for life. And the third poison is anger or aversion, symbolized by the snake that is quickly aroused and strikes at the slightest touch. Aversion, in a way, is just another kind of attachment. The reason we shun something is because we prefer or are attached to something else, its opposite. So this clinging to this world of sensation is what keeps us trapped in this wheel of rebirth, death, and another birth. All three, ignorance, attachment, and aversion, keeps us coming back again and again to the world of sorrow and disappointment, to suffer and to cause suffering. This image on the screen is called the Bhava Chakra. Bhava means worldly existence. Chakra means wheel. This is therefore the wheel of cyclic existence, or wheel of worldly existence, or wheel of birth, death, and rebirth, sometimes called samsara in Sanskrit. The wheel has also been called the wheel of life, the wheel of karma, various names for the same thing. The earlier image with the three poisons is actually the center of the Baba chakra, and it is what drives the whole wheel. I will not get into the details of this image, except to show that the wheel is held by the demon of impermanence. Do you see him? The demon's name is Yama, the Lord of Death. Thus, everything in the cycle is subject to impermanence. This is why, for as long as we are in the cycle of worldly life and craving material things, we will have to suffer loss, anxiety, frustration, heartbreak, pain, suffering, and yes, even death. In the upper corners of the image are the Buddha and the Pure Land. Those who have mastered the cycles are able to escape from the wheel and are no longer trapped in it. They show that we too can escape from the wheel. We too can be free. There is a story of a man who came to the Buddha and said, "You have enlightenment. Why don't you give us enlightenment?" The Buddha replied, "I will give people enlightenment, but first show me that that is what they want most." So the man went off and asked each person that he met what they would want if they could have anything at all. The answers, of course, were the usual. Great fortune, power, fame, health, long life. No one asked for enlightenment. And so it seems that we as humanity are still very much of this world, and so are destined to be subject to the cycles for a long time yet, until we decide we are ready to work to master them. Mastering the cycles of existence means understanding what it is that keeps us trapped in the wheel so that we can avoid the pitfalls and better navigate through life. Mastering the cycles eventually leads to liberation from the wheel of impermanence, so that we in turn may be able to help others to also achieve the same. Remember, since we are all one, no one can move forward without pulling everyone else along. We all must move forward together. The only decree of karma, an eternal and immutable decree, is absolute harmony in the world of matter as it is in the world of spirit. Harmony. The only decree of karma is harmony. So the only way to escape from the consequences of past actions is through harmony, as depicted in the image. When there is complete harmony and equilibrium, heaven can be reflected on earth. Nature speaks, but only ever so softly, that if we are not attentive, we miss the message. There is therefore the need for the quietude that enables us to perceive more deeply. In that silence is the harmony that allows us to sense the divinity in all things and form the basis of right action. Richard Byrd was an American polar explorer who lived from 1888 to 1957. Hungering for the ultimate solitude, he spent 5 months alone in the South Pole. In his book entitled Alone, he described an experience that can only come from the silence that allows for a communion with everything. It is a sort of experience that is usually described by mystics. He wrote, "I paused to listen to the silence. The day was dying, the night being born, but with great peace. Here were the imponderable processes and forces of the cosmos, harmonious and soundless. Harmony, that was it. That was what came out of the silence," he said. "A gentle rhythm, the strain of a perfect chord, the music of the spheres, perhaps. And he continued, "It was enough to catch that rhythm, momentarily, to be myself a part of it. In that instant, I could feel no doubt of man's oneness with the universe. The conviction came that the rhythm was too orderly, too harmonious, too perfect to be a product of blind chance. And that therefore there must be a purpose in the whole. And that man was part of that whole and not an accidental offshoot." And in view of the southern lights in the Antarctic, he continued, "The human race, my intuition tells me, is not outside the cosmic process and is not an accident. It is as much a part of the universe as the trees, the mountains, the aurora, and the stars." We have said that the imperative of nature and our oneness is harmony. just as our fingers must work together for the one hand to achieve its purpose. If we cannot work harmoniously and coexist, it will be difficult for us to achieve the purpose for the journey that we are on. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, however, it's always a challenge to maintain harmony, is it not? We are pulled and pushed in every direction. This is why various traditions have offered clues that may help. For example, one of the most often quoted statements in The Voice of the Silence states, "Compassion is the law of laws, eternal harmony." Harmony is the secret of happiness. Have you thought about that? Because it is the nature of our being. So happiness coming out of harmony is the most natural state. It explains why we find happiness in making someone else happy. Even making our pets happy. It makes us feel fulfilled somehow. It's our true nature, our true being. When our relationships are harmonious, wouldn't we be happy? Alternatively, when our relationships are not going well, we would be miserable. When we see intense pain or suffering in another, it makes us cringe, doesn't it? Somehow we feel it too in the deepest part of our being. Thus, if we can pay more attention, empathy would come more easily. Jeffrey Hudson expressed this in another way when he said, "The highest expression possible to mankind of the fact of a shared existence or divine life consists of, first, an unfailing love for all others. Second, the elevation of compassion, humaneness, and simple kindliness to the most prominent position in our lives. This must include humane treatment of animals and also our planet." He wrote, "Gentleness, tenderness, caring deeply, these are ways, however humble, by which the very best in a person can shine forth." So a very simple advice from Jeffrey Hudson is to care deeply for all others. Because this talk is entitled Mastering the Cycles of Existence, I would like to suggest a takeaway image that may serve as a useful guide. This image is the way of water. It is a beautiful metaphor used in the Tao Te Ching. It may be said that the way of water is the way of a sage. So when faced with dilemmas and difficulties, we may be able to get some clues from water. And if you forget everything else that I've said today, if you can just bring with you this image of water or the qualities of water that are coming up, it could really serve as a useful guide as we go through our own lives. In fact, those of you who are familiar with the paramitas in the voice of the silence may find parallels with some of these qualities of water. Let's look at them. The Tao Te Ching states, "The supreme good is like water. Water nourishes all things without trying to. Seeking nothing for itself, water by its existence alone is a benediction to all life. Water flows around obstacles and fulfills its purpose without violence. Instead of fighting obstacles, it flows around the blocks, creating new pathways if necessary. At the same time that it does so, it erodes the sharp edges of the rocks that block its path, smoothing them as it prevails. In this way, it both maintains and creates harmony." Water is content with the low places that people disdain. Most people would want to be at a higher place in life, to be admired, to be looked up to. But water teaches humility. It flows even to the lowest levels that most people would rather avoid. Having no ego of its own and no desires of its own, water works in harmony with natural forces and adapts to its environment. It embodies the way of nature. In the Tao Te Ching, it is asked, "Why is the sea the king of 100 streams?" The answer is because it lies below them. This is a teaching for the sage who would lead or guide the people. Serve with humility. Nothing in the world is softer than water. Yet for attacking the solid and strong, nothing is better. Water is soft, but over time it can wear away the hardest of rocks. As a Roman poet, Ovid, wrote, "Dripping water hollows out stone, not through force, but through persistence." And from Mahatma Gandhi, who led the nonviolent movement in India, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." The weak can overcome the strong. The supple can overcome the hard. Water is the most yielding substance. It may appear weaker and softer than a mountain, but did you know that the Colorado River carved What is now the Grand Canyon in the United States? It did this over millions of years. Thus, with patience, water, which is soft, can overcome the hard. It has a strength and power of its own. Water is flexible and adaptable. It can take the shape of any container, a glass or a teapot, or something else. It can be solid, liquid, or gas. Thus, in the Tao Te Ching, it says, "A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. Green plants are tender and filled with sap. At their death, they are withered and dry. Therefore, the stiff and unbending is the disciple of death. The gentle and yielding is the disciple of life." Tao in the world is like a river flowing home to the sea. Tao can mean many things. It could mean the way, the path, or the natural order of the universe, or the all-embracing unity. So the practice of Tao in the world is a flowing home to that essential unity of all streams. This reflects our own journey as we try to return back to the ocean of oneness from which we all came and to which we all belong. And finally, like a lake, the heart must be calm and quiet, having great depth beneath it. It is in this silence, this calm and quiet, that we can embrace the One. Therefore, with gentleness, compassion, humility, patience, flexibility, and inner strength and harmony. Like water, we too may be able to work around the crises of life, such as the present one. Master the cycles of existence, and eventually be like the dewdrop that slips back into the shining sea, where all is one.
Elena, thank you so much. That was wonderful, inspirational, instructional, just a wonderful way to begin this second day. Thank you so much. So to begin with, Elena, in your talk, you mentioned the 3 poisons of Buddhism. You make a statement that we are all so involved with material existence that we don't realize the real life is there after death. Could you talk about that a little bit more, please?
Hello, Barbara. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I didn't have a chance to thank you for your kind, very kind introduction. I also wanted to thank the organizers for the invitation to speak here today. And also, before anything else, I would like to send my own greetings to my fellow theosophists across the globe. It's always a wonderful occasion when theosophists can come together because it feels like coming home, even if it's only virtually this year. So the question you asked is a really good one. And if I have to give a short answer, it's really a matter of the level of perception during life as well as after death. When we are in this material world, there is a certain forgetfulness of our true nature. We become so identified with this physical body that we are occupying, with the personality that we are using to express ourselves. We get so caught up with everything that's going on in this material world. Well, that leads to a forgetfulness of who we truly are. We think that we are this body here, me. This is all I am, nothing more. But at some point, this body will die. It is impermanent. And what lives on is the soul. The soul that collects experiences from one life to another. And when I use the word soul here, I'm talking about what theosophists would refer to as the individuality. When we die, we drop off the body, we drop off the personality. What remains is the individuality, with a consciousness that is much or far greater than what we are having in this world. The identification with the body and the personality is the real reason, and the unknowingness that there's anything beyond is the real reason for why many people are afraid of death. There is that fear that once we die, there would be nothing left of us. The word persona or personality comes from the root word persona, meaning mask. In ancient times, actors would put on a mask to depict a character that they were playing. And so the mask is a temporary thing, probably good for just that one night when the play is going. But that which is true, that which is real, is the actor himself that could take on another character in another play. So when we are in the physical body, there is this sort of a limitation in terms of our perception of the real life. It's like a surgeon wearing winter gloves, thick winter gloves to do fine surgery. The fingers are moving, but they can't feel what they're touching. So there's a necessity to take off the thick gloves and be able to function and feel and perceive what is real. Those of us who have had a near-death experience have come back with common experiences. Of course, every experience is unique, but many of them have recounted similar experiences. First of all, the process of dying brings on a sense of peace, a sense of well-being, a painlessness, a feeling that everything is okay. When they return, there is a change in their outlook with a greater sense of purpose, a greater concern for others, more compassion, less of an interest in material wealth. It is as though during that time of a near-death experience, there has been a sense or perhaps a glimpse of what we truly are, or what they truly are. So when we say that the real life is there after death, it is really a matter of a greater perception of the real once we have dropped the physical body. Of course, this does not mean that the sense of the real cannot be obtained when we are in this material world. It is possible. The adepts, for example, have achieved an awareness to such a degree that they can maintain that awareness continuously, even while in a physical body. However, even in the Mahatma letters, it says, an adept is one only during the exercise of his occult powers. And while an adept is in a physical body, unless he is consciously employing his powers, he is limited to his own physical senses and the functions of his physical brain. So the ability to perceive beyond the illusion of this material world takes effort. And the perception is really a matter of the degree of awareness that is available to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At the beginning of your talk, you made a statement. You read Theosophy's statement regarding the purpose of existence. Where can you give us an idea of where you got that material? There's someone looking for that reference.
Well, if you read The Secret Doctrine, in the proem, you will see the third fundamental proposition of the Secret Doctrine, which describes this obligatory pilgrimage that we are all on, and the progressive development of everything, from the mineral to the vegetable to the animal and to the human and superhuman levels. This is the spiral development that I was speaking about. So most of the theosophical teachings ultimately come from the writings of H.P. Blavatsky. Of course, when we say the Secret Doctrine, we can mean two different things. One is the book that H.P. Blavatsky wrote, but also the Secret Doctrine is truly the ageless wisdom that have been taught by sages throughout the ages.
Okay, thank you very much. A Buddhist teaching states, quote, "We cannot outgrow the universe because the karma is in ourselves. Therefore, as long as we endure Therefore, as long as we endure, cause and effect operate in us," unquote. Thus, doesn't the wheel of life reflect the endless continuation of the repetitive cycle of life, death, and rebirth? Liberation is not possible because of the endless creation of karma. How do we stop the karma?
How we stop the karma is simply stop generating it. So it requires an understanding of what makes us generate it. Any action that is impersonal will not come back with will not generate personal karma. So selflessness is what is required. Actions which are based on selflessness, which are in harmony with all of existence, would be actions that do not generate adverse karma that keeps us coming back into life after life. The rule then is, as I mentioned in my talk, harmony. Harmony with all existence is the key to escaping from the wheel.
Thank you. That leads beautifully into the next question, which is, what do you suggest we do in order to obtain and practice harmony in such a noisy world?
Well, a lot of it has been covered in the talk. One of the things that we have to remember is, in order to be able to achieve our purpose, there has to be that cooperation, a sense of unity. It's like working in a team. When you are in a sports team, you do not think about what you want to do, like showing that you are the best player, for example. If everyone in the team wanted to have the ball will never reach the goal because everyone would be trying to hold on to it. When we are, so the team is a very good example of the need for harmony. When everyone is working as one, filling the gaps wherever the gaps may be, then the team can be able to achieve its goal. So I don't know, was I able to?
Yes. Yes, I think that it's a wonderful answer, that selflessness and working together, because we are all one, as you pointed out so beautifully.
You know, when I use the metaphor of water, for example, which is so based in the idea of harmony with the natural order. The use of water here is really just a symbol. And as with any symbol, it requires a deeper reflection on the true meaning of the symbol. Otherwise, even the symbol of water showing harmony could be subject to misinterpretation. For example, let us say that simple kindness, we might take the example of simple kindness, which Jeffrey Hodson suggested, as I mentioned in my talk. I had met Jeffrey Hodson as a child, and I remember him telling us children, always be kinder than the situation demands. Never forgot that, because we used to tease ourselves about it. We were probably naughty that he had to say it, but always be kinder than the situation demands. Now, you would think that being kind is something that you cannot go wrong with, that it is aligned with the natural order of things. And yet, think about the simple practice of kindness. Even that requires discrimination. Have you heard about the quote that says, the dharma of another is dangerous is the dharma of another. Dangerous is the duty of another. We may think that we are being kind by helping someone to do their job, but we may be forgetting that we have a primary obligation that we might be neglecting. Or I grew up with classmates whose parents felt that they loved their children so much that they shielded them from difficulties, did their school projects for them. Does that help? If you look at the bigger picture, does that help in the natural order of preparing the children to grow up, to meet life, and achieve their fullest potential? So even that practice of loving kindness needs to be done with discrimination. so harmony, as symbolized by water, for example, really is just a symbol that requires deeper, um, uh, deeper, I guess, uh, understanding of the deeper significance. Let's just say that. Does that work?
Yes, yes. Thank you. That again, that leads. You look like you have something else to add to that. Did you? No.
No, well, I know we don't have much time, so I would like you to go and cover as many questions as you might have.
Okay. Okay. So another question that actually leads from the previous one. How do you suggest we maintain empathy without becoming overwhelmed with suffering ourselves?
We can be compassionate, but we don't have to be emotionally invested. It does not mean indifference. I remember a question that was asked in an earlier talk. Does that mean indifference? No. When you can see the bigger picture, so it's always important to sort of step back and see a bigger picture and understand that there's a natural order, a natural progression of everything. The suffering is a way for us to learn lessons. And so think about the Mahatmas who are witnessing all of this. It is, in a way, very painful to watch people having creating these the karma that would bring back very serious consequences. And yet, when we think about it, it's a process of learning. So we can detach ourselves. It's possible to be compassionate, but also to understand that we are all still learning. We are just, it's just like going through the difficulties of schooling and meeting the challenges of schooling.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Could you talk a little bit about COVID-19, what your perspectives are about why it may be happening now, and maybe a little bit about the astral light, please?
Okay. Well, as mentioned in the talk, the astral light is like the etheric double of our planet. So our planet has its own principles, just as we have our own principles. It is on the lower level of the Akasha. Now, the Akasha has several levels, and the levels that touch our terrestrial plane would be more prone to receiving whatever lower vibrations are generated in our planet. And the astral light would be in that lower level of the Akasha. HPB said that the astral light is the tablet of memory of animal man, whereas the tablet of memory of the spiritual ego is the Akasha. Another way she described the astral light is that the astral light is like the photographer's negative plate. You know, in the olden days, before digital cameras, we used to have negatives or either plates or the film. And the negatives would record all the impressions that were taken by the camera. And she said, we are like the paper on which the image would be imprinted. And so we receive whatever it is that we had imprinted on the astral light. It may be that what we had deposited in the astral light may not come back right away. it may stay there longer. Who knows what determines when karma returns to us? We don't know. But when it stays in the astral light, these human iniquities that we have generated and have collected there, when they stay in the astral light much longer, they can collect and combine with other impressions that have been put there and gain strength so that when they come back to us, they come back stronger. So think about how even just in the last 100 years, how much of human iniquities have been generated. Genocide, wars, torture, crimes, hate crimes, hunting for sport, massive slaughter of animals. HPB, Annie Besant, Leadbeater, Jeffrey Hodgson all wrote that disease is the karma of cruelty. This is very sad because surely in all the lives that we have gone through, all of us had committed some kind of crime of cruelty against another. Those were lives when we didn't know any better. And hopefully in this life, we know a little bit more and are not generating that kind of karma anymore. However, whatever has been put in motion cannot be stopped. It has to take its course. And so, COVID-19, coronavirus disease, is very likely a karma of cruelty that humanity has generated over a long period of time. Unfortunately, those effects have to be endured. They have already been set in motion. The best thing that we can do from here on is to generate positive effects. We can fill our mental atmosphere with the opposite type of thoughts, thoughts of benevolence, kindness, understanding, thoughts of peace. So instead of criticizing others for their failings, we can be understanding. We are not perfect either, and we are all just learning. In this way, we are not adding to the negative karma that we have generated in the mental world. In the Mahatma letters, it is said that we should establish firmly a new continent of thought so that no opposition, no ignorant malice from that are guided by the brethren of the shadow would be able to prevail. So, to establish firmly a new continent of thought. Well, you see, the other day when I was watching the opening of the TS convention and seeing the greetings from everyone, it touched me that we have this connection with each other all over the world. Is it possible for all of us to link ourselves together all across the world and help each other generate this new continent of thought? You see, thoughts are so powerful, more powerful even than physical actions. Why is that? Thoughts can travel far and wide very quickly without regard to international borders. Thoughts can affect every plane of existence, not just the physical. So thoughts are very powerful, and the best thing about it, it doesn't cost us anything. We can be generating these good thoughts even by sitting comfortably in our living rooms, when we're falling asleep, the moment we wake up, when there's a little break during the day. Why don't we form the habit of generating these thoughts to reverse the negative effects or negative impressions that we have put on in the mental atmosphere? That could be a very important service that we Theosophists can do for the world. And I know I'm running out of time, but in The Voice of the Silence, there's also the idea of the guardian wall. And we Theosophists who feel so linked to each other, and I could feel that warmth by listening to the greetings in the opening. Is it possible for us Theosophists all across the world to visualize ourselves holding hands or standing side by side, encircling this planet and forming a wall of protection as described in The Voice of the Silence as the guardian wall? You know, adepts, the saints, the yogis, over the ages have been keeping this wall of protection around humanity to prevent further and even worse sorrows from coming and affecting us. Can we do that as Theosophists throughout the world, encircle our planet, be a channel for that divine light to come down, to provide a beneficent influence on all humanity and all life that is evolving here? We can do it. I challenge the Theosophists in this conference. This is a rallying call for all of us. You know, conventions should not, when we come to a convention, we go away probably with a little bit more inspiration for our lives and our work. Can we also go away with a conviction that we can do something together by linking ourselves and doing this service for humanity?
Wow. Wow. What a challenge. What an important challenge for all of us. Because I think that it's what we want, isn't it? To protect this world and to become that guardian wall. Thank you so very much. We are out of time. And, you know, there are, of course, other questions, but that's good because questions keep us thinking. And so we are very grateful to you, Elena, for your talk, for your words in the question and answer session. And I personally am grateful to you for the sharing of your wisdom. So thank you. Thank you, my
for
sister.
having me, and blessings to all of you.
Thank
Shanti.
you.